Today's episode is brought to you by Divine Social. Divine Social is a marketing agency that helps e-commerce stores who sell to makers, creators, crafters, artists, and DIY enthusiasts. They are behind some of the biggest brands in the creative industry, responsible for strategies to move your online traffic from prospects to buyers to raving fans. The team at Divine Social is offering a customized review of your shop to help you uncover what's keeping you from selling more. Go to divinesocial.com/CIA for more details. Thank you so much, Divine Social. And now, here's the show. Welcome to episode number 207 of the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals where you can strengthen your creative business, stay up to date on industry news, and build connections within our supportive trade association. Check it out at craftindustryalliance.org. Today on the show, we're talking about creating craft studios for kids with my guest, Nicola Day. Nicola has been sewing since she was 11 years old when she learned to sew at school. Sewing has always been part of her life. In college, sewing for people helped her to make money to support herself. And after college, she designed a line of pocketbooks and sold them all over the U.S. in boutiques. When her daughter was born, she wanted her to be as passionate about sewing, but found there was no sewing studio in her town. And so she founded HipStitch, a sewing and craft studio for children in Newton, Massachusetts. HipStitch has been in business now for 12 years, opening their second location in Wellesley, where we're sitting right now, and a third location is due to open in Brookline, Massachusetts soon. HipStitch has expanded its offerings to include knitting, crochet, and fiber arts, as well as their own DIY hand and machine kits to create at home. In addition to offering classes at their studio, they offered the program offsite to 15 schools in Newton, Wellesley, Weston, Cambridge, and Brookline. Nicola Day, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Abby.
Yeah, it's so great to be here. And I think HipStitch is such an incredible new asset to our town. And I will disclose that my daughter, Josephine, has taken a fashion class here and totally loved it. So I'm so happy that you are here and also that you're a Craft Industry Alliance member. So I know that you are the oldest of 14 children.
Yes.
And that is an unusually large family.
Yeah.
So what was that like growing up?
Hectic. So that's probably where I get my organizational skills from, having to multitask and look after younger siblings as another one came along.
Yeah. And was your family creative? Were you creative as a kid?
Yeah, I was totally creative. While everybody else was making TV, I was crafting, projects, bookmarks, or whatever I could hand make, trying to create new ideas rather than sitting and watching TV.
Yeah. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in the north of England. It's a town called Stoke-on-Trent, and it's famous for making pottery, Wedgwood and Royal Dalton. So it is a creative town in a different kind of way.
Right, exactly. Okay, and so we mentioned in the intro that when you were in college, you were sewing for people. What kinds of things were you doing?
Whatever they would draw me a design, and I would make a sweatshirt, whatever their design was. If it had 2 different coloured sleeves, I remember I used to my models were my brothers and sisters because there were so many of them. So I'd make shirts and way back when, I'm showing my age now, that they had paisley shirts and they'd have paisley sleeves and different coloured cuffs. So I'd make them for my brothers and they'd wear them to college. But of course, you never finish them in time, and I'd want them to model them the next day. So I'd say, just roll up the sleeves and put elastic bands on. They'll never know there's any cuffs there. So their biggest memory is saying, oh, the blood circulation stopped in my arms because you made me wear this shirt. And then that's how I'd kind of get all my orders. So then people would, we didn't have cell phones and that, so they would just say, can I have one of those in a different colour? And So I'd be sewing all night long, and my sisters would be cutting, and I'd be sewing in my bedroom, and my dad would be shouting, "Turn that machine off!" So, yeah, so from an early age, I was always sewing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So it's like your brothers were like live models.
Yes,
like walking
models.
around
Yeah.
in those samples.
Exactly.
And then people would generate excitement
and
that
say,
way.
"Well, that's cool. Where did you get that?" And say, "Oh, my sister made it. Please don't order one."
And so you learned to sew in school, as did I. I learned to sew in home ec in 8th grade.
Exactly.
So what was the sewing curriculum in school like then?
Yeah, pretty basic, you know. I mean, you'd learn how to put in a zipper, make a simple apron or a skirt. Apparently I got the top grade in the class. I didn't know then that was the journey that I'd be taking. I actually did cookery, home economics cookery, and I was the top in the class for that. So I ended up actually going to college for catering. I ended up and then I didn't go down the road of sewing and fashion, which I totally should have done. But anyway, it came back around. So here I am.
So you got, that's what you studied. So then how did you transition back to sewing? It sounds like after college you got a job. What kind of job did you get?
So that's where the business part comes in. So I decided, business is something I'm interested in. So I changed my direction, and I went to school for business, and I got a business degree. And I was an accountant, so I didn't go into the creative field because still there wasn't those kind of opportunities then, and I don't think people thought, because you still did home ec at school, so there was never really, I didn't feel like there was a demand to do it outside of school. And then obviously as schools changed and there was less, they didn't offer that in school, then I think people started to be more interested in it. So fast forward like 20 years. So I always had the business end. I just didn't use it. I didn't channel it into the creative part until I moved to the States.
Okay, so you were working as an accountant. You got a practical job that could earn a good living, which many people who are interested in art end up doing because it sounds like, it's going to be difficult to make this into something.
Exactly.
Okay, and so what brought you to the U.S.? How did you end up coming here?
So 2 of my brothers, the models who wore the shirts, wanted to get away from me and came to the States on these Camp America exchange programs where you go to camps and teach kids soccer. My brother was an art student, so he taught art. And they ended up on Nantucket. After you do the program, you have a month to travel around the US. And I think someone told them, go to Nantucket, it's cool. And so they ended up on Nantucket, and then they both met their significant others there. And I came to visit.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it got me to the US. And then my husband is a musician in a rock band, and he was doing a gig in Nantucket, and that's where I met him. I mean, that was a few years on,
Yeah, so you were just coming to visit your brothers who were there, and Nantucket's such a beautiful place.
But I did get a sewing job there. So there was a lady who has a sewing store there, and she, I made slip covers and pillows for properties in Nantucket, and then I kind of spinned off from that and started doing my own line of purses, pocketbooks as you call them.
And you sold them through her store or separately?
No, I took a trip across the States for 3 months with a friend. We drove down the East Coast, across the bottom of America, all the way to the West Coast, and we sold them as we went. And we had... it's kind of funny. This was before social media.
Right.
This is before, online, anything.
Right.
So we had a pager, and people would page us and tell us. We had a line of purses that we designed with different names. So we had the Martha's Vineyard bag, we had the Saratoga, we had the Nantucket bag, and we had a theme for each bag. And then we would just go into boutiques, and my friend would be the model, and she would model each bag, and they'd say, "Yeah, we love them. Can we get 10 of them?" So we'd stop in a motel with the sewing machine, and she'd cut, and I'd make
at the hotel.
So for a few days we'd make them, and then we'd take them to this boutique, and then they would page us on this, and then they would pay us, COD or whatever it's called, pay back direct to the bank account, and then we just kept moving states to state.
Wow, you were like itinerant wholesale handbag providers or something.
So we got so we had them all over the place. We had them in Saratoga, we had them in Georgia, we had them in San Francisco, many boutiques. But this is where the business part comes in. Then we were getting so many orders, it's cash flow. You don't have the money to buy the fabric, to expand. So I just put it on pause for a bit.
It sounds exhausting too, by the way.
Yes, it's very tiring.
Okay.
I mean, it's exciting at the first, and you go,
sure.
I got 25 orders of the Saratoga bag, and I'm like,
God.
I have to make them.
Right.
So, but anyway, so I suppose that's where it started, and then...
So you put it on pause for a little bit, and then how did you figure out what was the next best step?
Well, in between that, I had a business on Nantucket, a property management company.
Okay.
So I ran that for like 10, well, I just ran it, I stopped doing it just before COVID, so 20 odd years. So I had the business background, and then the rock singer who I met on the island, I got married to him, and we relocated to Newton, Mass.
Right.
And so then my daughter wanted to do the sewing classes, and I looked at her and I was like, there's only one place. It was in a town, Needham was the next town over, and there was a wait list. So I said, that's wait list for sewing classes? Never heard of it. I mean, I could have taught her myself, but I had a younger child, so I just wanted it to have a set schedule.
I feel the same way, so I could have taught my kids myself too, but my kids all took sewing classes outside. But also, it's different when you're learning from mom than when you're learning with friends and outside of the home, right. I think. Yeah.
And so that's when the light bulb went off, and I was like, wow, there's a wait list for, so she had to wait, I think, 2 months so she could get into that class.
Wow.
Anyway, so I took it. And then I just got the idea, I'm like, well, there must be a demand, and I was in Newton's a large town, it's a city, so there's lots of schools and kids. So I thought, I'll just try a pilot class in my house, and I'll email her class. She was 7 at the time, which is the perfect age.
Yes.
And so the whole of her school wanted to do it, her grade and above. So I think she was 4th grade, so it'd be the 4th and 5th grade. And then it just kind of snowballed, and now it's free, right? So everybody wants a free class. So then someone would email a Girl Scout troop, and then they would email a friend who would email a friend.
So word of mouth, it just got around that this was going on and something that kids would like and could do. Yeah.
And so I set it up in my living room, 2 tables in my living room, and I think I did 100 kids in 1 month, because it was nearly the end of the school year, so people's schedules were open. So then I was like, clearly there's a demand. So now I just have to find a location.
So had you it sounds like you hadn't really had experience teaching necessarily or working with groups of kids. Because, being a mom is different than teaching a group of children. So was that a learning curve for you?
Yeah, a little. Because, you got very patient, and then, showing them the steps, and then also the sewing machines that I had, the ones I have now are much more user-friendly, and they're easier to thread, so there's all that learning curve, and when I first started, I got donated all the sewing machines from people who, I went on Craigslist, and people, husbands, wives who passed away, who had sewing machines in their attics or basements, donated them to me.
And so it's all different brands.
All different threading.
Right. I know they're all different. I mean, they're all basically the same, but they're all actually different.
Yeah. So, you can't say if a child can't thread a machine, on table 5, it's not the same as one on table 4. So that, where now children can help other children if there was a glitch, but you can't because they're all different, So then that's the whole learning curve. But I mean, this was I was testing the business, so I was like, okay, I don't want to use my own cash yet till I know it's
I think that's important too, and also just gauging interest locally. Right. I mean, obviously there was this wait list, so you knew that there was that, and then a free class, So did you transition to paid classes?
Yeah. So then I looked for a location. It just happened to be one, a few doors down the street from my house, and the landlord let me do month to month, so there was not a big commitment.
Oh, that's the best. Yeah.
And he didn't mind about me, so I had to go in and decorate the place and make it, appealing. And so he let me do month to month, and then I didn't really have to worry about it because it took off straight away. Everybody, all the people that had come for free, that was 100 people, and those 100 people told another, 50. So we had wait lists for the classes. I didn't have enough teachers. I mean, it was the other way around. So
did you start to hire? I mean, obviously one person can't do all of this. So you must have, who was the first hire, and how did you figure out who to hire?
Well, I put an ad on Craigslist, because that's how there was no Facebook then, remember? There was
right.
No Instagram.
This was 12 years, more than 12 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that's how I guess that's kind of how you would find people. There was
Sure.
not a lot of these employment websites like Indeed or any of those.
Yeah.
There was none of that. So I was so lucky. I found a guy who lived in Newton. He was a sewer, and he worked for a company, and he wrote about sewing. He wrote about sewing techniques, but he wanted to do more hands-on and teach sewing, and he was a big sewing enthusiast, and he lived 2 streets away.
Perfect.
How random is that?
Yeah.
So I hired him. So he was the hands-on, because remember, my daughter was 8 and I had a little boy about 4. So I have little kids, to manage in between. And actually, honestly, he was better at the teaching than me, because he understood the mechanics of the machines, and he just was more in tune with that. Whereas I was more in tune with the business side and getting people in the door. So we were kind of a good fit,
Yeah. It's so interesting. Sometimes you think you're the only one who can do something, and then you hire someone and you realize, actually, they can do it better than I can.
Way better than me, yeah.
Yeah, and it's such a huge asset to understand that.
And he was much more technical, much better sewer than me. Not that you needed really to be with kids, because it's basic anyway. Yeah. But like if an adult wanted to take a class, I mean, he knew every technique.
He could do everything.
Yeah, whereas I'd be okay, but I don't know if I could make their ball gown or something, whereas he could.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he made all his own clothes, his jeans. He'd spend 30 hours on a pair of jeans, and he'd make every, and I'm
wow, that is so incredible. Yeah. Those skills are incredible.
So it was good, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so what kind of projects did you feel like worked in those early days? And maybe talk, because we're sitting in this gorgeous light-filled studio in Wellesley. There are projects lining the walls, on shelves, and up on hangers and everything. So talk, I guess, about those early projects that did or didn't go so well, and then what kind of projects you offer now.
Yeah, so the first project we did was a headband, which is basically 2 strips of fabric with a piece of elastic on the end that they sew in, and they can wear it. So the reason I chose that was because every kid would make it. It was pretty straightforward. They could do straight lines or decorative stitch, and it's a marketing thing. They would wear it to school, and they would tell everybody they made it. So that would advertise for me, number one, tell everybody in their class, I made this. Where did you make that? Oh, I made it at HipStitch. And so that was a good thing to do. And then we just did a basic pillow. But I think I opened in the September, and that Christmas I did a fashion show, because kids, I mean, now I understand this. They love the idea of fashion, but they don't understand how much time and effort goes into making a piece of clothing. So
most people don't
know.
in today's society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it ended up being me there for 2 weeks before till 5 a.m, finishing all these projects, because the kids want to wear them, and then they are attached and they get upset and they want to show off their skill set. So that was probably an overreach. It was I think you learn everything should start simple, basic. Keep it basic. And what you think is simple to you is not necessarily simple to a child. So step by step, and they can do that later on as they build the skill set. So
right.
That was so. I would have the guy that was helping me make these prototypes, and he'd make these really complicated. They looked amazing, but I'm like, oh my gosh, that would just be too over. And you don't, when people are starting, you don't want to overwhelm them. You want to underwhelm them so that they keep interested, and then they don't get frustrated, or they lose the confidence, So it's about keeping it simple and building on those skills so that they stay interested, but they don't feel too overwhelmed that it's going to be too challenging for them to finish.
I want to take a minute now to talk with our sponsor, Tracy Reuter from Divine Social.
Tracy Reuter, and our company is Divine Social.
And what is Divine Social?
So we are a advertising agency. We're a digital marketing agency that helps and focuses on brands and businesses that sell to makers, creators, crafters, artists, DIY enthusiasts, and we help them create successful digital acquisition strategies.
Okay, so what does that even mean? So it's great that you specialize in this niche. So you're talking to makers, which is awesome, and you understand them. You're a maker yourself.
Yeah.
But what does all of that other part mean?
So our specialty is when you have your own storefront and you are trying to get people to go from never hearing about you to actually buying from you on your e-commerce storefront. We specialize in basically designing, if you will, the creative process to get people from never heard about you before to becoming raving fans. We've been serving the makerspace for over, 5.5 years now. Our team is been quietly behind some of the biggest brands in the space, and we have a tremendous amount of experience understanding the nuances of very tactile products. And we know a lot of times people want to touch and feel things, but we've really mastered how do you do it digitally. So if a company is wanting to really grow their direct to consumer, whether it's Shopify or whatever it is that they own. So not necessarily an Etsy store or Amazon or something like that, but directly. That's what we've been doing for the last almost 6 years now in this particular space.
That's fantastic. Such a good resource to know about. And how can people find you and be able to reach out to you?
Well, our website is divinesocial.com. And you can go there. And then if you go to divinesocial.com/CIA, for a limited time, we have an opportunity for people who are already doing direct to consumer and want to get our eyes on their store to find out what's preventing you from getting more customers. So that's definitely there.
So valuable. Thank you so much, Tracy.
My pleasure. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you so much, Divine Social. And now back to my conversation with Nicola. Okay, so what kind of projects are you offering now? I see lots of stuffed animals.
Yes,
and I see some like very simple skirts and blouses and dresses, and then some bags and accessories and things like that.
Yeah, so we always start off with a pillow because it's straight stitching, straight lines. They get to sew an applique on, whatever they choose, the initial, or we have a variety that they can choose. Then we move on to a tote bag, again, straight lines, but now they've got leaving an opening, so they're learning how to sew around in a circle, and we just kind of build from that. And then they do have to do simple stuffed animals like 2-dimensional, then 3, and then up and above. And then if we do clothing, again, straight lines, a skirt, a pair of leggings, and then we kind of build from that,
Mm-hmm. Okay,
that takes a while to get to that point.
Yeah. Okay. And how old are the kids who come here now?
I'd say, the thing is, we do younger children from 6, but they do the fiber arts now, so they can do hand sewing or weaving, so obviously if someone's got a sibling, for convenience, parents want to drop off both kids, so the younger child would do the fiber arts and the hand sewing, and then 7 and up we kind of do sewing machines and more complicated things.
Right, so you expanded out into not just sewing. Was that challenging or to figure that out, or was it obvious?
It was very easy because parents would say, well, I really want to send my 7-year-old, but then I've got a 5-year-old, and then where am I going to send her? And I'm like, bingo, you're going to send her here. We're going to give her more simplified projects, and she can be with the sibling, and then, and that's how it grows from there.
Right. Okay, so that's really smart. And we talked about these donated sewing machines that you were working with in the beginning, and now I see all of these Brother machines here. There's Brother Project Runway machines all over. So how did you decide on that? And was this the first type of machine that you went with, or has it evolved over time?
Yeah, so we tried a few brands. So we tried Singer, which is obviously one of the more famous brands, but they have a drop. Well, the models we were using 12 years ago didn't have the drop-in bobbin at the top. They have the door that you have to pull down and put it into a contraption. So that's challenging for kids too. So I think I just looked at another model, and then obviously with the whole, because we have a fashion program, we looked at the Brother Project Runway, and then I think they developed that machine for the younger generation because there was more interest in sewing.
Right, like kids would see Project Runway on TV, get interested, and then they made this, Project Runway machine that's very simple.
Right, simple threading.
Simple to use.
Yeah, so we just kind of went with that, and that seemed to work, and then obviously got rid of all my donated machines, and then it kept everything the same and consistent, so that way it's easier if somebody is challenged about threading. somebody sitting next to them that could say, oh, you just do this, and it's a number system for the threading, so it's
right, which makes it easier.
Yeah.
And then do you teach them things like winding the bobbin and all of that piece too?
So we sell the sewing machines, and with if you purchase a sewing machine from us, we give a 1-hour tutorial, and you can schedule that after you purchase. After that time, when they come back, we teach them all that: threading, changing a broken needle, winding a bobbin, what some of the attachments do, the buttonhole, and they come with various attachments.
And so, can the parents? So I for many years, I think 4 years, I taught adults to use their sewing machines.
Yeah.
They would bring their machine in, whatever machine they had that was gathering dust somewhere, and I would show them how to thread it and wind the bobbin and do a simple project. We made a drawstring bag, and a lot of these folks also, their child was enrolled in a sewing class and loved it. They got a sewing machine for Christmas or for their birthday, and then came home and were like, I need help. The needle broke, or I can't wind the bobbin correctly. I can't thread this correctly. And mom, or sometimes dad, would be like, I actually don't remember how to do this, or I never learned. And so they would come and take the machine to me in this class. And so when you do that tutorial after they've bought the machine from you, can mom and dad come? Or?
Yes, that's what we do. And we suggest that they come and then they video
right,
the
with
steps,
the phone. Yes.
because they won't remember.
Totally.
So I do it all the time. And we also do adult classes, and if someone has a machine, we'll do the same as what you did. We give them they can bring the machine, we show them how to thread it, and I always say to them, you can buy from Target, you can buy on Amazon, but you're still going to need to come to us if you're not tech savvy, because
Here's the thing about sewing machines. They're just that hard, just hard enough that you actually benefit from a one-on-one lesson.
And then you learn things maybe you didn't know. You didn't know how to put the attachment on to make buttonholes or whatever. Or there's just glitchy little things.
Right.
I mean, maybe it's our generation. Younger generation, maybe they YouTube it more, but...
Yeah, and the manuals are good. I always feel like bring your manual, because the manual is very helpful, but a lot of people don't read their manuals.
Right.
So,
or they just feel intimidated.
They do feel intimidated, exactly. Okay, and then what about when it comes to like supplies, like thread, fabric, pins, all the other stuff, all the notions.
Yeah, we sell all that now.
Oh, you sell. So did you, before we get to the selling that, did you start wholesale accounts to be able to buy all of that stuff?
Yeah, I did. So I went to a couple of conferences, and I made Creativation is a conference in Arizona, and I went to that and made a contact there, and then you just have to have a tax ID, and then you can open a wholesale account. There wasn't any limit on how much you have to order. So in the Newton store, nobody really thought of us as a place you would come and purchase anything, because it was always about the classes.
It was just about lessons, yeah.
And so we've kind of expanded into that, and then when we opened the Wellesley location, we already had it to begin with, so people do actually come and purchase. And there's Joann's, which is kind of a little hike to get to, and if you're here taking a class, it's just convenient, right? You want to buy the stuff there and have it available to you. Right.
So you became a sewing machine dealer.
Yeah.
And then you also have a kind of a retail area. There's kits. There's all kinds of fun sewing things. There's patterns. Also like cross stitch and other things that are knitting crafting, and general crafting. Yeah. So it really operates as a store. Somebody could just come in right now and purchase some of those things as a present or for themselves, etc. And so and then do you sell fabric or no?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we have a limited amount in the Wellesley location because it's small. We have some in Newton, but in our new location in Brookline, there's a whole dedicated area for fabric and notions and supplies because it's a bigger studio.
Right. So it's almost like a sewing store within a sewing studio.
Exactly.
I think that's really smart because it's hard for people to know what to get.
Right.
And so they're here, and as you said, they're taking the lesson and then to buy something to take home.
Exactly. And they don't want, it's time, right? Everyone's crunch on time. They don't want to have to now I've got to go and drive another 30 minutes to go and buy pins or needle or whatever. So it just makes it easier. Convenience, I guess that's what they're paying for, right?
Right. Okay. And then I love, so this place is decorated in a beautiful way. And you have all these green chairs. What are these chairs?
Well, this Wellesley studio was completely white when we took over the space. So we just said, okay, best thing to do is keep it white and then just add a pop of color. So the fabric, the projects, and then the chairs would make it give it some eye candy, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
and then these big pink chandeliers.
Oh, yes, same
right?
thing.
It's so pretty. And then over the checkout area, there's a wall of scissors.
Oh, yeah, like antique scissors, yeah. So we kind of wanted to have cool things for people to look at and feel inspired in the space. And the chandelier there.
Oh,
That's a chandelier that took 25 hours to hand roll all the pieces of fabric.
Okay, so this is like kind of a classic looking chandelier, but each of the branches is wrapped in different fabrics.
Yeah. So we kind of wanted to have that, people feel inspired, kind of like Anthropology, the store where you go in there and you see the cool creative displays, that sort of theme,
Right. And talk a little bit about the windows too.
Oh.
You have these beautiful windows and, foot traffic. Like, how important are those two things to the success of this business?
Well, there was always lots of available spaces. When I first looked in Wellesley, there was it used to be a sewing studio before, and that lady closed down, and they offered me the space.
And it was on the second floor, no foot traffic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want that because the one in Newton is it's a retail store, so you want people to see you. It's street level, people can walk past, and the whole point of having the windows is to inspire people and say, look, you can make this, you can do this, and draw people in. And so this new location in Wellesley is perfect for that.
Yeah, it's like a candy store. Like you walk by, exactly. the door on the outside is painted bright pink.
Yeah.
And you just feel like I love that Anthropology analogy.
Yeah.
Like you want to make things and you want to come in and be part of it.
Exactly, because I know a lot of people don't have that creative vision or that creative side of the brain, but if they see it presented to them, then they'll be interested. So you're trying to appeal to lots of different types of people.
And talk a little bit about these school programs, because I think that's also really unique. So you have these 2, soon to be 3 locations, brick and mortar locations in neighboring towns, where there's lots of kids and lots of families, and it's going to be popular. And then you do these school programs. So how did that start?
Actually, a school reached out to us because we do sewing birthday parties. So we have a lot of kids. No other place was doing sewing birthday parties or craft parties. So we have a lot of kids from these neighbouring towns, and someone, I think a couple of parents from some other town, asked us, would you ever think about doing the after-school program at our school? And often these after-school programs are volunteer, they're run by parents. So that I think it was one of the parents. So I said, maybe, let me think about it. So we first did a school in Brookline, not in Newton where we live, not where the first studio is. So we took the sewing machines there, and we would do sewing one week on a machine and sewing the following week. And that seemed to be fairly successful. And then once we did that, another school asked us, and another school. So then we just kind of grew it from there. So now, we do several towns in Newton. I mean, the issue with the offsite is obviously you've got to have very reliable people, because the kids are there every week, and they can't just, if someone calls in sick, you can't just not show up. So logistics are difficult, and then you've got to transport all your sewing machines.
And do you have to bring them every week and set them up? Because it's probably not a dedicated classroom for this.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a lot of labor.
So we have 50 sewing machines, so we have a bunch that we allocate for the off-site classes, and then just logistically figuring out all the different teachers who can do the programs, and making it make sense for them financially, because they don't want to just go for 1 hour. They do 1 hour prep and 1 hour class, so you have to build that into your business, So a lot of those teachers then do our programs when the schools are closed on all the vacation days.
Okay.
So then it becomes more of a full-time position, or more than part-time.
Right. So your teachers are being sort of sent out for that, and then they come here they build it out and get enough hours to make it worthwhile for their time.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then you do birthday parties here. So talk a little bit about the events piece of it, sort of, because that's another revenue stream on top of classes and in school.
Yeah. So again, when we first opened in Newton, someone asked us, would you do a birthday party? And I was thinking, oh my gosh, how would we possibly teach someone how to sew in an hour and a half and have a finished product?
And like that child, right, hasn't signed up for a class.
Yes,
so this kid they're there because it's their buddy's birthday.
Right.
They're not there because they're like, I've always wanted to sew.
Yeah.
They just arrive.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have a system. So, when they first come in, we give them a little practice we give a demonstration, obviously, how to use the machine. They all do a little practice square. So that's 10 minutes. And then they can only really make a pillow with an applique. Unless they're more advanced and they've got sewing skills, then they would do a tote bag. I think we've done a couple where we've maybe done skirts, but these are more advanced sewers. So, it's definitely...
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge, and it can be a bit stressful.
I was going to say, it can be kind of rowdy. Birthday parties are a little bit hectic.
So our birthday parties are like 2 hours, so they're 15 minutes demo. Then they go and practice for 15 minutes, and then literally they probably have an hour to make the pillow. And then when they're having their cake and pizza, then the staff finish any pillows that don't get done, so everybody gets to take something home. So there's no disappointed...
right.
Yeah. Guests otherwise. So, pressure's on us
to finish all of anybody's errors, mistakes, or whatever, because crazy stuff happens.
I know, and then you're unpicking and
right, you have to unpick really.
Or some kids sewed two pieces, they sewed both pieces together with their initial, with the applique on top, so they haven't got a second piece now. You're like, okay, we'll leave that. We'll just add another piece.
Right.
So anyway,
yeah.
But we've done it enough now. We've kind of got it down.
And is that a good lead generator? In other words, do kids from those birthday parties who had never stepped a foot in here then sign up for things?
Yeah. So they sign up for a class. They might do their birthday party. Or we do camps, so they would sign up for a camp for a day, and we have a flexible schedule with the camp. So they might come for a morning or an afternoon or a full day.
For me, I have to say, as a working mom, for me, having these vacation camps, when I had 3 little kids at home, was like a lifesaver. I would send my kids to sewing camp. Like, you would have off for one day from school for, a federal holiday, whatever it would be. Or like winter break, you have them home for a week or something like that. And I mean, those sewing camps were incredible for me.
So that's what we do. So, I mean, obviously that's logistics too, because you've got to have a lot of staff. Because if we offer morning or an afternoon or a full day, and then you can do as many combinations as possible. So staffing that can get a bit complicated. But
but I noticed, so my daughter, who I said earlier, did take a fashion class here. She goes to a private school, and they have a different schedule, right, than the public schools. Right. And so, for example, like professional development day, they have different professional development days.
Yeah.
But I noticed I got an email saying, hey, your school, and the school's name in the email, is having this professional development day next Thursday. Send your kids to camp at HipStitch. And I was like, that is brilliant.
Yeah, so we do all the private schools too, So we go through the calendar in September, and we put every camp, every professional day or school, I mean, we're expanding all the time, on our calendar, and we have a private school camp day, and they can come and sign up. In fact, we've got one today in Newton, and then we've got one this afternoon in Wellesley. Even some of the schools do early release, so then we do mini camps, so they'll come for an hour and a half. So today there's a local school that is finishing early, so we have a camp this afternoon.
Right, so that is really smart. I think it's a really good tip for anybody who is looking to provide programming for kids, is like, get all the schedules, not just the public school schedule, and then send these targeted emails, because when you do sign up for a class, you say what school your child's enrolled at, and so you already know in your database who they are.
Exactly.
And
you can target market them.
Yeah, exactly. So talk a little bit about your email strategy, because that's a big part of marketing, and how you think about that, what your approach is there.
Yeah, so we try and not bombard people with we do use constant contact as our email marketing tool, but we don't want to bombard people, because I just think they'll also unsubscribe. So we try and do once a month and tell people what's going on, and we try and do community events, so it gets people in the door, so it's not always about paying for something, so that way you're giving back to your community.
So talk a little about what kind of community event, what does that mean?
So we did, like, for Halloween, we always do a free Halloween party. Kids can come in and make free crafts. We can give candy. All the staff are dressed up. That's one event that we do. This Sunday in Wellesley, there's a holiday stroll. So we're giving cookies and hot chocolate, and people can come in and see the studio. We're not really offering crafts this week just because we have birthday parties, but just so people can see, hey, this is what we offer, and if there's any interest. And then we also donate gift certificates to all the schools, or private if they ask, or public, because that gets people in the door. So they'll auction those certificates off for a birthday party or a camp day or a parent-child class, and then usually out of those ones that we donate, that always somebody signs up for it. So it's paid, it's targeted advertising, and you're giving something away, but you know that it's going to come back in a different way.
Right. So when the school has a fundraising auction, you'll donate that and just be very generous there. Yeah. And I came to your opening party, and one of the things that I thought was great about it is you invited all the merchants on this block, and and in the blocks that were kind of in the downtown shopping district of Wellesley, and so all the different like shop owners were here and had a chance to come in. And I think probably, my guess is, developing relationships with those neighbors is really important as well. Yeah,
definitely. And I try and be involved in the arts. Like I'm a board member at the New Arts Centre in Newton. So, you make great connections. You know what's going on in your community and what's available, and just all the different needs, or what you can be involved in, so you can network and give back to your community.
Absolutely. And like the Wellesley Women Artisans did Art in the Park, and we made a big community. I'm involved in that group, and we made a big community quilt. People came and made that, but it was all kind of glued together, and then the squares needed to be sewn together to make the finished quilt, and you volunteered to sew them.
So we're trying, and actually that lady, she's on the New Heart board. So I try and always get involved in all of those things, because then the more people that know about you and you give back, the more people, you get, even if your kids are not interested in creative crafts, it just gives you a good presence in the community.
Yeah, I think it's really important to get involved in that way. And so what happened during COVID? I mean, I feel like here you are, in schools that are now closed, doing birthday parties that kids now can't come to. Right. And I mean, and in a retail shop, basically everything. So what happened in March of 2020?
Yeah, so we didn't have the Wellesley location. Obviously, it was just Newton, and we got, mandated to close down by the state. But then, funny, my daughter was a cheerleader, and she had a friend on a cheerleading team whose father was head of Cambridge Health Alliance, so we managed a bunch of the hospitals in the area, and they obviously, before everybody else knew in the public, they knew there was a mask shortage and people. So he reached out to my daughter, who then reached out to me and said, "We've got this great idea. No one really knew about the mask thing yet. Would you guys help us come up with a prototype and make a mask?" So we'd seen things floating around on the internet. So we had to make a prototype for him. He was the head of like 5 hospitals, and then they took it to the board and said, "Would this work for our people who are in the all the health workers?" And they said, "Oh my God, this is amazing! How fast can they make them?" So we got a special permit. We were able to get a special permit from the state to say we couldn't be open to the public, but we could be in there making these masks, because it was for...
this is you and staff members or volunteers?
Yeah, so I had to lay off all the staff. So those staff then said, I asked them, would you sew at home and do make these masks if we give you the pattern? And remember, I have 50 sewing machines. So my daughter was able to... anyone who didn't have a sewing machine, she could drop a sewing machine to them. So beyond my staff, it was people in the community who wanted to do sewing, who could sew, can help, So we dropped the sewing machines. And because I'd got this tip off, it was before everything actually shut down. So I was able to get
early, my
wholesaler to give me as much fabric as I could buy and as much of elastic, because all of that was...
so you had elastic when nobody else did?
People offering me $10 for a yard of elastic. I mean, we would give it away as much as we could, but... Anyway, so all of those things, because it was a supply chain thing, and then everything was not available.
I know.
So I managed, I think it was 2 days before I got a tip off from him, the guy who was running the at the hospitals that things were probably going to shut down. So then I sent my daughter to the wholesale. I'm like, buy 10 grand's worth of fabric and as much elastic as he's got. Because he didn't even know.
Good foresight. My goodness.
Because he didn't even know.
Yeah.
So he was like, sure, okay, you can have all this. And anyway, so then I was able to start producing. I think they needed 1,000 in 1 week. So I managed to get all my local staff to make them. But then I was like, why? I may as well try and sell them online because I had the platform to do it because I had read through the store. So then I put them online, and someone in the community told the local TV station, and I think the CDC said on the Thursday that everyone had to have a mask, and on the Friday I was on the local TV station. I think I was on 5 times that day. So from the Friday to the Monday, we had $150,000 worth of orders. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is your e-commerce built on? Was it able to handle this? Is this Shopify?
Shopify, yeah.
Okay, so you could handle it.
Yeah. So, all this is a learning curve. So, we were offering all different colors, which was silly. So someone would order 2 masks. It's like, because you have to pick, pack, and ship that and make it, right? Rather than doing 10 in one. Anyway, so that's a whole logistical nightmare because we're not a manufacturer. So we cleared the studio and we had someone cutting all the squares and the elastic pieces, and we had a drop box outside our studio. People would pick up 100 with fabric and elastic and sew and then drop off. And then we would pay them after we'd inspected them and make sure they're up to standard. Wow. So that was so I hired people who were sewers because no one was working, right? So anyone who worked in a factory, anyone who was a tailor. So besides my staff in the community, I had another 10 people who were professional sewers, and some of them had machines that I just give them the fabric and they cut the squares and cut the fabric, the elastic. Yeah. Wow. So it was a huge operation. When everyone else was doing TikTok videos and watching Netflix, I was working harder than ever. Not till 2 and 3 in the morning.
Right.
I mean, it was crazy.
Right.
And the demand was and everybody was so stressed. So, you order on a Friday, they want it by Saturday.
Sure.
It's like, well, I'm not a mass market. I'm a tiny little sewing studio.
My goodness.
So we survived until we could open.
Yeah, yeah. That's an incredible story. Yeah. You'll always remember.
I will.
Yeah, okay. So then, so now you're open and you're going to be expanding into Brookline. And I wondered, was that a risk? And even expanding out here to Wellesley, you were just in Newton for 12 years.
Yeah.
So what was the thought process in that decision to, hey, we're going to invest and expand? Yeah. And I know you got a grant from the state to help also.
Yeah. So, because we do all the offsite programs in those different towns, I was always getting asked by parents, would you ever open one in our town? So obviously you have to do the research and figure out, is it viable? Are there enough schools, enough children? Is there enough disposable income? That kind of thing. So
I remember we had a conversation about this when you were like, should I move to Wellesley?
Yeah.
Should I or shouldn't I?
So I wasn't sure about Wellesley. I knew Brookline for sure because it's got similar demographic to Newton and we already do a bunch of schools there. I only do one school in Wellesley, so I wasn't quite sure. But when COVID happened, all the commercial spaces were available. Number 1, there was availability, and 2, the price point was much, much lower. So most people wouldn't probably expand during COVID, but
it was a risk.
It was a risk,
yeah.
But a calculated risk because you could lock in for 3 to 5 years at a much lower rate. So that was part of the problem. Everything was out of the price point and didn't make sense financially. So this
actually enabled you to get a lease at the right price.
And then I did find one in Brookline to begin with, and then that fell through, and there was some other issues. And then I saw the one in Wellesley, and it was a good price point. So I said, okay, well, we'll do Wellesley. And it was really easy to get in the door, just the logistics with the space that we took. It was like we saw it on a Friday and we could take it by the Monday, so it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, and it just was a whirlwind.
Yeah, and it was getting it already.
Yeah. So, and I'm imagining it's been a success, but how would you evaluate it? I know it's been hard with COVID.
Yeah.
Still,
so
parents are a little apprehensive.
They were apprehensive to come back into a shared space with other kids and other.
Yeah.
So that was we opened April of this year, so it was still pretty new. And we opened the week, it was some of it was just random time. It was not calculated, just happened to fall, that week was April vacation week. So before, we had a month to get it ready, and when I was advertising about it, I was already sold out before we opened the door that Monday morning. So that was a good sign.
Yeah.
Again, that was April, so people were still a little nervous. Then we kind of had a bit of a lull, and then the summer camps are usually the busiest time. So our summer camps weren't that busy. They were okay, but in retrospect now, maybe that's a good thing, because you can kind of learn what works and what doesn't, versus if you got thrown at the deep end, it would be hard to staff, and you want people to have a positive experience. You don't want them
you don't want to have such high demand that they come and it's frustrating, or they don't have a good experience right off the bat, because you're still spreading the word.
Yeah, exactly. So we thought it might be a little busier in the summer, but I think because of COVID, more people went away than ever, so that made it less busy. But now the classes are getting busy because fall sports end, and now they're coming indoors and they want to do something else. And then, we have an amazing manager here, Amanda. So how she deals with the customers and how she deals with the kids, help make a positive experience. And then, it just takes a bit of time. People tell people, and then it builds from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes time to build a business, and it is built one relationship at a time.
Right.
And so you have to treat each person, very, very well, so that they come back and they tell
recommend
people.
You other people. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, especially a local brick and mortar business. That's how it's built. Okay, so I want to get to your recommendation list, but is there anything important that I didn't ask about because I didn't know to ask, but would be interesting to know about around running a kids craft studio?
Yeah. So, like any business, it's all about doing your research to begin with. There's no, you have to, the only way that you can succeed is you need demand, you need enough people to come to your studio. The reason we kind of focus more on kids rather than adults is because kids, if someone signs their child up for a class, they'll make sure that they go every week and it'll be consistent, whereas adults are not as reliable and the schedules change.
Isn't that interesting? It's like they will always drop their kid off on Thursdays at 3:30, but if you book an adult class at 8:00 at night, often people won't come, even if they've paid.
I know. So we just decided we offer them, but that isn't the main resource. So we focused on children for that, and also just researching where your location is. Can people get to you? I've had a lot of other people who wanted to do the same thing come and ask me, and I'll show them how we do it and what we do, and then they'll go and sign a lease in a mall that no one can get to, or some location that unless you carpool, you can't get to it. So they didn't think of those logistical things,
Yeah, and this location has easy parking.
Yeah, that's another thing.
It's easy in and out. You can pull up, open the door, kid can hop out. You can watch them go right in, so you know that they're there.
Safe, yeah.
And then same thing with pickup. It's like you can, and there's a bunch of cool boutiques on this street, so you could park if you got here 15 minutes early because you were coming from somewhere else. You could do a little shopping, and then so it makes it pleasurable and easy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All of those things. And then, basically you need capital and cash flow, you may be the craftiest person on earth, but if you don't have a business sense and you don't have cash flow, then how are you you can't really make it successful unless you hire people who are going to help you. If you want to grow it, if you want it as a hobby and it's just for you and you want to just make a small income, that's a different story. But if you're looking to this to be your main income, your main job, then you can't make money unless you do volume. It's just the way it is. You need to have a lot of children, you need to have a lot of offerings, you need staff, so that's a whole other learning issue, And
your accounting background, I'm assuming, also came in handy.
Yeah, but even for me, it's a lot to deal with, and handle, and payroll and taxes and this new, all the different rules and regulations that apply with all small businesses.
Yeah, it is a lot. Are you sleeping well at night? Are you up at night?
Well, I'm up a lot.
Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, the stress it's a lot of stress.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle. And, just keeping track of everything and everybody and your staff. And
then you have that occasional parent who's upset, angry, demanding, whatever. They're always out there.
Exactly. So you've got to respond to them. And deal with all those. But you're in customer service. So you're providing a service, whether it's teaching, whether it's selling or teaching the child to sew or craft. So, you've got to service people right and give them a good experience and be able to handle if someone has unrealistic
expectations,
or the kid's crying or anything along those lines.
Totally, yeah. And you get kids with all different learning challenges as well. There's kids who have ADHD, maybe aren't medicated or should be medicated, whatever, and they're running around, and or kids who frustrate really easily. My oldest daughter frustrates really easily, and it's challenging to teach her because when small things happen, she has big reactions.
Yes, and you have to tamper that down and get it in proportion.
Totally, and it's hard when you have a bunch of kids together to handle different learning styles.
Well, now I'm not. As far as the business goes, I don't do the hands-on day-to-day stuff unless someone's off sick or need to jump in. So I'm sort of behind the scenes, organising everything and keeping it afloat and making sure the staff are going where they're supposed to be going. So,
it's a lot, Nicola. All right, so let's get to your recommendations. So you told me about a magazine that I had never heard of before, and it's called FAIR, F-A-I-R-E, just like the wholesale platform FAIR, but it's not related.
No, it's not. It's a British. Obviously, I lean to things that are British because I'm British, and it's a lady who started a magazine. I think she was an editor in London, and she moved to France, and she highlights all different artists from around the globe, not just sewing. She does anything crafty. So she could do ceramics and she just highlights their business. She does amazing photography. So it's I think it's a quarterly subscription. And then you just get to learn about someone's journey. It's about their journey more than their actual craft, So where did they start? How did they become? Great. Yeah, and it's just very interesting. It can be people who retired from their regular job and decided, I always wanted to learn how to, do ceramics. And then it talks about their journey, and some of them become quite accomplished. So it's just interesting. It's just it's all about to inspire the creative mind.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. I'm totally going to check it out because I had never heard of it before. And then you are reading Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff Goins. I have to say, I followed Jeff Goins for a long time, and I remember he really was great at like newsletters and newsletter marketing. At one point, I was reading a lot of things that he was putting out there. So what is this book? Is this a book, Real Artists Don't Starve? Yeah. Okay.
Just came out. I mean, it's all the principles that I talked about where you've got to really research your market. It doesn't matter whether what you're doing as an artist. I mean, what's your goal? Is your goal to make money? And if it is, then research everybody else who's doing something similar, and how are you going to make that viably profitable? No one can do it as a single person. You're always going to have to hire people and all the logistics that go with that.
Nice.
So it's sort of giving you that background and trying to guide you through that.
Yeah.
And also know your worth, right? Just say, why am I selling this for cheap when I put my heart and soul into it? I'm worth X, whatever that number is, I'm worth this much, and, not undersell yourself, I guess. That's
and not being afraid to put the real price on it. Yeah, that's great. That's a great recommendation. Well, Nicola, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Craft Industry Alliance podcast.
Okay, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great to see you. And you've been listening to the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Today's episode was brought to you by Divine Social. Divine Social is a marketing agency that helps e-commerce stores who sell to makers, creators, crafters, artists, and DIY enthusiasts. They are behind some of the biggest brands in the creative industry, responsible for strategies to move your online traffic from prospects to buyers to raving fans. The team at Divine Social is offering a customized review of your shop. to help you uncover what's keeping you from selling more. Go to divinesocial.com/CIA for more details. Thank you so much, Divine Social. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals. When you become a member of Craft Industry Alliance, you get in-depth coverage of craft industry news, the opportunity to connect with fellow professionals for advice and support, and access to an educational library filled with ideas, tools, and resources to help you as you build your business. Join us at craftindustryaLliance.org. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.